Welcome, everybody. This is Tom Randolph from GoldenCare. I've got my partner in crime here, Dennis Reiner. Dennis and I have been in this industry forever and a day, it seems like, and we've had the opportunity and pleasure to work together for almost all of those years, if not all of them. So we're really looking forward to the opportunity to train you guys up and to have these webinars. We've done 30 of them on the first session around, and this is our second session where we had 48 webinars, I think, in 38 business days or something that stretch. We lose track of them, but it's an important thing we're doing, and these are fun ones. These are the webinars that we really enjoy, that we talk about how to sell and how to start the conversation and how to be successful, even though you may not be deep up to your neck in the short-term care or extended care market out there. So it's definitely a necessary thing. We're trying to keep these webinars a little shorter. So my new thing is I'm not going to go through and talk about some of the scary things out there about the year 2030 and how Medicare is going to go broke and Medicaid's going to go broke, and we're going to have a lot of problems on our hands with all the baby boomers aging. But I do want you to know it's so important. If you can see on the slide there, I mean, it's one of those things that, from a standpoint of Zig Ziglar saying it's a moral obligation, we have a lot of work to do. We have to go out and start that conversation. And hopefully what you'll see from these webinars that Dennis and I are doing, and you can go on our site that will show you where all the old webinars are, and you'll see a little more detailed introduction and a short-term care 101, if you will, to see what short-term care is and why it's so important. But again, it's so important to do it. And that's the part that we want to talk about today, is introducing short-term care. You're in great hands. Dennis has trained literally probably 100,000 agents plus, and I've trained thousands and tens of thousands of agents in my career. And we both done. Oh, my watch is talking to me again. It doesn't understand. Sorry. Got one of those eye watches that jumps in once in a while and throws in her 2 cents. But anyway, long story short, we've really been doing this a long time, and we understand some of the simplicity part of it. And you guys have built-in clients, and you have the ability to go out there and talk to people who already have a little bit of trust. And that's the beauty of being in the life or long-term care, or excuse me, the life or the Medicare market, where you don't have to go out and use calling cards and do direct mail and start from scratch. You have people who just, all you have to do is do a simple thing and start the conversation. So Dennis, I have, if I know we both were on the run on a different call this morning, is you want to talk a little bit about the shifting market today, and then some of the product availability, and then we'll get into it, or however you want to do it. We'll jump back.
Yeah, sure, Tom. Well, very, very quickly, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, that, back in the day, the long-term care market was really a senior market. We were servicing people where the average age was 72, and then the market began to shift, and it began to get to the pre-retirement age, and then underwriting began to change, and it got more difficult. So we were ahead of the curve by knowing where we needed to be, and part of the paradigm shift is these products are now they're being developed, are more consumer-friendly. They have less underwriting. They're less moving parts as it relates to the complexity. So much easier for the agent to understand, much easier for the client to understand, and they're much more affordable. They can be anywhere from 30 to 50% lower in the cost, and yet they can still be comprehensive in their scope. So, and we've got the menu here as far as state approval with the Tom, with the various carriers that we have in our lineup. GTL's Recover Cash is in 37 states, Omni's in 32, very much in the near future we're going to be talking about, and Tom's kind of giving a little arrow clue.
I was ready. I remembered
what's coming in. The real key is, can you get to the other one on the east and find it on the map? But without they're approved, but they won't be on the platform for a couple of weeks. So we don't want to, but hey, we'll be up to 34 states, and we're hoping to get up to the same level with GTL. And Wallaby came aboard and towards the end of August. So 10, they've got a couple more. I think they're coming really soon. And when it's all said and done, they'll probably be up to around 30 states. And we hope to have Omni and GTL is probably at its maximum right now. So that's kind of the map. And then we also have on the home care side, Tom, that's on the short-term care, or what we call extended care. We've got a similar lineup as far as, GTL pretty much pioneered this concept of standalone home health care maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, and in about 34 states, and Manhattan is following suit, similar products, but there's differences. And you've been on probably other previous webinars where we've talked about the home care only options, and you can see some of the legacy version of what Manhattan has, and those will eventually be part of the new Home Healthcare Select. And Tom,
Yeah.
you may want to just talk on True Freedom for a second.
Yeah, the best thing, like I said, these maps are all over our site. I have to laugh because you notice I was pointing to the wrong state up there, Dennis.
Yeah,
I was like, what am I doing in Washington? I got to go back to geography.
Having worked in that Washington state, I didn't want to say anything, Tom, but I thought that was kind of funny.
Scary. I did it, and it was like, what am I doing in Washington?
If you can get Washington approved, I will take you to dinner anywhere in the country that you want to go.
Well, and that's why I had to correct myself. If it was some random state, but Washington's such a stretch, I was like, oh my gosh, if anybody's on here, they're going to see that and think they're coming to Washington. So my bad. I was having a morning. We just got off a plane late last night, and we're back in the office. So funny, sorry. Anyway, these states out here like Washington that are just not going to go to the short-term care realm. Minnesota, I'm living smack dab in the middle of it. California, Florida. The nice part about this True Freedom plan, it's not an insurance plan. Make sure you check out the training on that product, because tell you what, the nice thing is you can look at any of your clients anywhere in the country and say all 50 states, we've got a nice solution for them. And this isn't a throwaway solution. It's a very, very strong product that does some really nice things. So I really want you to feel comfortable knowing that's a great option for you. And we have some other solutions, other products that aren't in the short-term care initiative if you ever need help in some of those weird states. But again, True Freedom really makes it nice to be able to go out and stretch it big. So let's jump into the fun part. Again, I'm going to show you before we get off today. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time to go and show you the website. And we're trying again to keep these a little bit more short and concise, because I know you guys out there have so much to do. So I'm going to probably step back a little bit and jump in. But Dennis is definitely a pro on this. He understands the short-term care conversations better than anybody just about. So I'm going to turn over a lot of this to Dennis, but go ahead and let you share some of that wisdom you've gained over all these years, Dennis. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
I always make him sound old on purpose. You know that.
Yeah. Still got some, like we said, we're both high mileage, but hopefully, with a new set of tires on both of us, we can extend our shelf life here for some time. I just want to say something at the very start. This is probably not your core product, and you're probably doing something else, whether it's Medicare, whether it's life insurance, final expense, annuities. And, anytime you feel like you have to learn something new, there's always that challenge. There's always that curve. I want you to know you can do this. These products are very easy. And the key is, in starting the conversation, is you really have to hit the easy button. You cannot complicate this process. Part of, when we talk to LTC people and they are, going in and doing a presentation on long-term care, and then they pivot because of underwriting into the short-term care. I mean, that might be an hour and a half conversation. I promise you, if you follow this 5-step process that we have, and if you need help, we're here to help you. But it doesn't have to be complicated. You can make it natural, and you can make it part of what you do, and make it as a part of your review, make it part of at the end of every sale that maybe you just concluded, whether it was a Medicare sale, whether it was an annuity sale, whether it was a final expense, maybe a big IUL life insurance sale, whatever it might have been. And just make it part of the conversation where you may say something like, hey, oh, by the way, or before I forget, we've taken care of getting your annuity set up here. And I know all the reasons why you wanted to have this fixed index annuity or this MIGA annuity. But, I wanted to make sure that I talked on another area of protection that we haven't taken care of. And that is in this area of extended care planning, because see, your annuity is going to avoid probate. You're going to be protected. Your money's going to grow free of taxes. You're going to do some great things. But in the event of a catastrophic illness or a tragic accident, I don't want you to have to look at the annuity as your source of having to fund that responsibility. Or if I was doing Medicare and I just concluded an MA interview and I just said, hey, I want to let you know you just took care of your immediate care. Your immediate care is all the things that your Medicare Advantage program offers you, which is your Part A, the health coverage, your Part B deductible, the Part C, which is the Medicare Advantage, and then the prescription drug. But there's another half of your healthcare plan that you haven't taken care of, which is extended care. Have you done any extended care planning, or who do you have your extended care plan through? That will prompt them just to lean in and be able to start the conversation, whether you're teeing it up for a return visit or whether or not you have enough time because you want to go another 15, 20 minutes. Some clients are going to be ready, and some clients, you're going to have to work a little bit harder and maybe come back, and you're going to have to just plant that seed. So it doesn't really matter. The point is, you need to be that resource, and you need to really start that process. And remember this: when we're talking about adding in, layering in, adding more of a package of protection with other solutions, cross-selling, stacking. I don't care the terminology that you want to use. I want to just tell you, there's a simple rule I've always had. I learned this many, many years ago when I was very new in the business. And I had a mentor that shared this with me, and I've never forgot it. And it was this statement: that anytime you want to introduce something that's new, such as this extended care conversation, always first explain, or always first, when introducing something new, always first compare it to something they already own and understand. That's why I said to you, when I said about owning the Medicare or owning the annuity, because what happens is when you come out of left field and just suddenly are just laying something on someone that seems like it's a random topic, they will have a little bit more of a reaction to that. But when you make it where it just kind of flows together, the new conversation is being compared to something they already own and understand, then it begins to make sense. And as we move into this, you have that opportunity to create the desire. And Tom, feel free as we talk about this to jump in. But another important phrase that I want to share with you that I think it is so true. And I've been doing this, as Tom said, for a long time. And all the things that aren't going to work, we're not going to tell you about, but the things that do work, we want you to know and we want you to use. And of course, you have to put it into your vocabulary. You have to make it where it's the way that you like to say things. Maybe my way or Tom's way may not be exactly your way, but the point is the messaging is what we're after. And that is that clients, they don't always buy what they need. We know that. But I will tell you, my experience has been, and I've done literally hundreds of consumer workshops, is that they almost always will buy what they want. And the key is in the want. How do you get them to have that desire to want to have that other half of their healthcare plan that you just talked to them about in step number 1, breaking the ice? Breaking the ice is you already have those existing customers, and so you know where they are. So getting to them is just, part of cutting through and having that conversation. And I will just promise you, if you just start the conversation, these steps will begin to flow very easily. The biggest challenge we have with agents is they just have this fear and they don't feel like, hey, I can have that conversation, when it really is just natural. And I wanted to say something, Tom, before we go any further, is your clients don't know that you don't know. Keep that in mind. The reality is, very few of them are going to know more than you. Now, you may have some that are that way, and I always try to measure that on the front end. I'll say something like this: on a scale of 1 to 10, Bob and Mary, 1 being that you don't know anything about this topic that I'm about to have this conversation with you about extended care, because you asked me about what that is, or 10 being that you could actually teach me a thing or two. Where do you think you are in that spectrum? And it's amazing. Once you engage people, you'll begin to find out where they are. They may have already looked into this. They may have already bought a plan. And so you may be looking at taking a different approach with supplemental coverage. So again, Tom, that desire part is really, that's important. Something they already own and understand is the way that you first establish it. And then you kind of can go a little bit deeper on what they say. In other words, if you need to spend a little bit more time because it's a Medicare client on the explaining to them about how, in essence, this extended care plan is going to pick up. It's going to pick up where their Medicare leaves off. It's going to fill that gap, Or again, if they own a final expense plan, and you're going to talk about the same thing, it's going to pick up where your final expense left off. Your final expense is obviously for end of life in the event of your passing away, whether it's a untimely death or just natural causes because you lived to age 85. This is going to pick up for while you're living, and it's going to take care of your healthcare needs when your health changes. And so again, make this very easy and part of it. And at the end of the day, all that you're trying to do in these first couple steps is you're not trying to tell them that what you're sharing today is nice to have. What you're sharing today with them is have to have. And there's some assumptive steps that you can take in that process, which in establishing the need makes it where they just feel like, yeah, I have to have this. So Tom, I don't know if you want to jump in on that.
I do. Yeah, I do. And I tell you, it's one of those things that there's several points, notice a couple things. First of all, 5 steps to the short-term care conversation. One of the things you'll hear in all of our other sales calls and on this one is that one of the things we talk about is when we're using certain terms, like notice Dennis said, have you looked into your extended care needs? Because short-term care has this thing where a lot of adults in America think short-term is 30 days, paying for after you get out of the hospital or something. They don't understand it. So remember, like he said, they don't know what you don't know, and they certainly don't know as much as you after you watch just a couple of our webinars. So remember that part, that use extended care, and they obviously will come full circle around that when we talk about designing plans later in a different webinar. But the other part, you notice it says conversation, because that's one of the things Dennis and I really try to hype on agents, and it's sales 101 more than extended care sales. It's any sales. And a lot of you on this call may really know that already, but remember the part of a conversation is listening. 70% of your time, like Dennis says, should be spent having a conversation. Find out what their needs are, find out what their wants are, and that's how you can fulfill setting up that desire, right? I can throw stats at you, and I can tell you right now about, boy, there's more people that, a lot of gray hair in America, and I can pound you with stats about how Medicaid's going to go broke and $100 trillion of unfunded liability. And if we don't, that's all part of, if you want to know that stuff, that helps support your case of why you need to get something in place. But the true thing is there's an emotional, logical side of the sale that we talk about. And the true thing about desire is what they want. And for us, for example, talking to agents like you who are out saying, I'm up to my neck selling Medicare or final expense or my usual suspects. This is a whole different thing to me. Do I want to go in and try to, do I need to go in and start trying to learn how to do this? Well, to creating desire to you, Dennis and I would tell you saying, yeah, you know what? Number one, you've got an easy lead. You're sitting way better off than most agents in the country because you got an existing client base that already have some trust and empathy with you. Number two, when you get a multi-line agent, every stat out there talks about if you have multi-products with the same client, you keep persistency. Number three, these things pay way better than you can probably imagine, and especially some of you who are in different fields. These have nice renewals and do a great job of building your pocketbook by going that little bit out of your comfort zone to help them. This is something that can do wonders for your block of business, and you become a trusted advocate for that client so that you can even have more products that you can easily support with them, because they're going to look at you saying, that's not my Medicare guy or gal. That's not my life guy or gal. That's not my final expense guy or gal. This is my agent. This is my advisor. This is somebody I trust. So again, creating the desire, and I know we're yapping at you without microphones open, so we're not having a conversation today. We're doing a training. But remember the power of having a conversation as you create desire and break that ice, because it literally is like Dennis said. I can tell stories. Dennis has sold one of these policies over breakfast in 5 minutes, having them leaning in, and 15 minutes later, 10 minutes later, probably had them basically saying, where do I sign? It'll get me an agent. So it's really easy because people now are ready. We're in a perfect storm in America where people are really a little bit nervous once you start the conversation. 90% of adults have never had a conversation. And all it takes is, hey, before I leave, I just want to make sure. And it's amazing how quickly you'll see. And again, we'll talk a little bit as we finish up about, don't worry if some do, some don't. So what? Have a little passion for what you're doing. But remember, you're a law of large numbers. You don't have to worry about every single person jumping all over this. we're going to talk about that as we finish. I'm getting ahead of myself, but great job, Dennis, so far, and I'll let you keep going. And should we move to the next one on the health?
Tom,
You
let
might
me
be on
finish
mute,
up
bud.
on one other point on the create the desire. So, you know, you got to establish a couple things when you're in that desire. One, you need to bring up a fact that when we're talking about the other half of their healthcare plan, you might want to say, and sometimes you include yourself in that conversation, because when you include yourself, it's that security in numbers. You can say, the other day I was just thinking about this topic that we were going to have. I wanted to make sure at the end of our time together with your annuity or with your final expense that I was going to bring up this particular topic. And I started thinking about reflecting on my own situation about, hey, we're all hopefully going to live a long life, but along the way things could happen, our health could change. I thought to myself, what circumstances could cause my health to change over time? And Bob and Mary, have you ever thought about that? And so again, when you include yourself and you make it conversational, what you can do is you can begin to layer in some of the important things, because remember, you're selling that annuity that doesn't have any underwriting, right? You might be selling that final expense that was also guaranteed issue or only had maybe a couple questions. So what you need to begin to establish with this desire is not only get them to want it, but also make sure that you begin to set up what's going to come in step 3, which is we'll cover here in just a second. But you can just find out, hey, what would cause their health to change? Because one of the stumbling blocks oftentimes before we cover this health issue is that some people will not acknowledge to you that they don't think that there's going to be circumstances. But again, you notice how I put myself into that conversation, that I said, I started reflecting on what could cause my health to change. Well, I could have a tragic car accident. I could have a catastrophic illness. Gee, I had cancer, some years ago. I'm talking personally now. So when you include yourself, then they open up and they begin to feel more comfortable when you're asking about that. And you know what? A lot of times people already have experiences. You don't have to go as deep as you would if you were a long-term care specialist trying to, get into the weeds on some of this. But don't be afraid to ask them if they've ever known anyone whose health has changed and actually had a need for services. And gee, how much are those services? And so, in other words, what you're trying to establish with that desire is, hey, there's really 3 paths here. Either you think the government is going to take care of you and you're going to spend down all your money, or you basically are going to use your own money before that spin down, or you're going to actually use the power of leverage. And so, we talk about a little bit about this idea of MOM, MOM, my own money, versus OPM, other people's money, as Tom was alluding to earlier about the power of leverage. But health, Tom, is something that if you set it up in number 2, it makes it easier in number 3 to go a little bit deeper. As Tom indicated, you're asking the question, you're framing the question. We talked about this in a previous webinar, and then you're listening. And as you listen, then you're able to drill down and let them know. And Tom, as you share some things on the health aspect, the main thing is the client needs to know that this is not like your annuity. It's not like an automatic enrollment. There is going to be some questions that we have to cover. So I'll let you jump in, Tom, and then we'll go, in through the rest of these steps here.
You bet. Thanks, Dennis. And again, we're in different locations, so if one of us if I'm yelling at you, blaring through your, I apologize. But that is everything Dennis said right there is spot on, and that's why the health part of it, the usual line I've used for years, saying, now the one thing about these type of products, because 3 out of every 5 individual bankruptcies in America are because of some medical conditions, and all the different plans we have can do a great job of protecting you. And the nice part is that we do have plans that'll help you. You buy these plans almost nowadays more with your health than you do with your checkbook. But remember, as an agent, that we live in America's weird. We're living longer, but we're living sicker, right? And we know, there's been a little bit of pushback in the health deal where people are starting to get smarter about it, but we know there's a lot of unhealthy people. And one of the biggest reasons people don't want to have conversations about extended care is a lot of time they've heard about long-term care underwriting. A lot of people just through the grapevine, maybe you've heard, boy, this is tough to get. I've heard it's really tough underwriting. So what you want to do, first of all, is put them at ease. And I always talk about this part of it to say, and remember, you buy it with your checkbook or your health more than your checkbook. But first of all, don't worry, because the nice part about it is we've got it here at Integrity of full realm of products for you. So literally right now, I'm talking to you over the phone or in person or wherever. I don't think you're living in assisted living right now, right? And you're not receiving any home health care right now. And I'm pretty sure from talking to you and working with you in the Medicare final expense or whatever it might be, I know that I don't think you have any problems bathing, dressing, or any of those activities that you do every day, right? Okay, the good news is we have something for you no matter what. So that's where I don't want you to feel nervous about, oh my gosh, he's going to ask a bunch of health questions or all these different things. The key is this is really easy. And this is another place you guys have a huge advantage as agents, especially if you've worked with clients for a while. You know how your client base, some of you on this call know clients like you're practically friends already, right? Some of you really know them. And some of you, if you just wrote a life policy, you already know what their health conditions are in some cases. So there's different ways that and get an idea for their health, but you can get it done really simply. And we have all these tools we'll show you. We have an InstaPivot tool that can get any condition that'll have any one of our products and tell you if it's going to get approved or not. Okay, we have tools like that, but we don't want you to feel like you have to go and even go that far. If any of you know anything about long-term care, it's a very complex situation. We don't want you to feel like it has to be complex. You can simplify it down very easily. And a lot of times it's a legal pad. If you're sitting on the phone going, have you had any big hospitalizations or anything in the last 5 years? What kind of meds are you taking? And you know what? You don't have to go to med school. You don't have to, you can use tools we have. If you want to, you can use our InstaPivot tool. I'll show you where that is on the site. You can put a medication in and find out if it'll get covered. It's that easy. Find out on these big topic areas by going in this keyword over here. And I'm not going to train you on this today. We have full training on this tool. But if you want to go that far, here's all of our products in our Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative. You can find out instantly based on what state they're in, because you can pull that down too. And you can find out which product you can get for this person super easy. Some of you aren't even going to do that. Some of you are going to say, hey, I write a lot of Manhattan Life, or I write a lot of Wellaby, or GTL is my company. I love it. You know what? These are just screenshots of the apps to show you. This isn't long-term care underwriting. This is simple stuff. In a conversation I could have with my client after I do a little break in the ice, develop the need, talk about, this is just something that's so important. I can't sleep at night if I don't at least talk to you about it, because it's so important and it can do wonders for you if you ever have problems. And nowadays, 70% of the people will use a plan like this because it's so easy to get benefits from it. And we all know knee replacement, hip replacement surgeries, it happens. And God forbid something big happens, these are the plans that can help you too. So let me just ask you, I know from working with you, you've never had AIDS or HIV that I know of, and anything here. And again, I'm not going to read this to you today, but when you get into our training on these products, you're going to see these are super broad conditions over here. This is activities of daily living. This is Parkinson's stage 4 or 5. Okay, Alzheimer's disease. These are major conditions. This is the knockout area for Manhattan Life's product, for example. Okay, and then you can see here down here, there is cancer. So if somebody has cancer, that's something that would be, if it's in the last 2 years that you have real aggressive treatment, not ongoing stuff that's just nothing, like making sure it doesn't come back. But if you're getting treatment, this wouldn't be the product for you. Okay, then there's tier 2 underwriting that I won't even get into today. But again, I just want to show you these are broad conditions. So again, I didn't go to med school just now, did I? I'm looking at this in the agent guide. Here's Wellaby. That's the application I showed you for Manhattan Life. Here's Wellaby. You know what? They have an uninsurable spouse rider. So if you can answer this first question, if you have one spouse who isn't as healthy, look at that question. Are you getting help right now for activities of daily living? And that shows you that's basically how easy it is to get at least a rider that offers some protection. That's why I'm talking about the broad use. And again, I'm not going to read these. You can see it when you view this later or look at the Wellaby app. Wellaby's our newest comer. It's in 10 states so far. It's going to be in more. You can see they're pretty broad pretty easy to go through if you wanted to just use one of them. I didn't bring up the GTL. I have it as a PDF I could bring up, Dennis, but I don't think I need to. I just want to show you that's how easy it is to go out and do the underwriting. And again, watch our webinars if you want to get deeper, but it's not hard to find out if somebody has the health to do it. It's you develop the need by showing them the desire, by showing them that they're probably going to need something like this in the future, and then you can tell them about the health side of it. And product knowledge is piece cake. That stuff, these products are simple and easy to understand, and we've got great training on all the products too. So Dennis, I'll turn it back over to you if you want to add to that.
Yeah, perfect, Tom. I think with the health, it's an area that agents tend to shy away from, and we want to make it, as you said, we want to make it as easy as possible. And there's a couple things. One, some of the advanced preparation. Now obviously there might be a situation where you're just going to bring it up happenstance because of circumstances at the end of a call. But anytime you can have a little preparation, it doesn't hurt for you to print out that app, even if you're one that just sells remotely, but you might be in a face-to-face situation, or even if you're doing a Zoom call, that you have it as a cheat sheet there. And again, you don't have to refer to everything about it. You can hit the big broad strokes, as Tom said, but all you're trying to let them know is that you already set the stage that you can get them covered. So now the amount of coverage they can get is really predicated upon where they are from a health standpoint. You make it very easy. And then when you get into setting the stage, you understand, and we have a whole separate webinar on plan design, but very, to make it very succinct and just to the point, there's really three components of plan design. It's the current age of your client. It's the current health that we just covered, that Tom just walked us through, did a wonderful job of outlining how easy that process is, and really what their current budget is. So again, this doesn't have to be, something that you are like with long-term care. I mean, there's people in long-term care that can get into the weeds on plan design and come up with all kinds of gyrations as it relates to the complication of what they want. These products are very straightforward. There's not very many moving parts. There's how much money do you want? We already know the duration on the plans. They can last for 1 year and possibly with restoration 2 years. And we know that how soon the client can get it is based on the deductible or the elimination. So again, and if they want to grow, there's an inflation benefit. So not much more to these things, but all you have to do is keep it very simple by knowing already probably how old that client is. As Tom said, you probably know a lot about that client. You may have worked with them for years, and you probably have seen if their health has changed over time. And the key is not to let the budget, the budget is actually where you want to make sure that you can show them kind of what I call the bookends. What are the end of the spectrum? And we just put together this as a way just to give you a measuring tool on kind of a good, better, best, if you will, classic, premier, ultimate, from a low end plan to a medium sized plan to an ultimate plan. And this is something that just by you not necessarily, if you want to run a quote in advance of that call or advance of that, that you're actually going to bring it up. But if you just have some age bands here, it kind of gives you at least some of the parameters as to where you can go, and what their budget is. You'll know exactly how to fit it in. It's a very, there's a rhyme and a reason to these steps. The reason we walked you through the first step, to break the ice, was you got to start the conversation. The second step is you got to make sure you're getting them leaning in. The third step is you got to do, you got to know where you're going to go. You cannot lead too soon. I can't overemphasize that. I've seen this over and over again with agents where they have a tendency to go right to the solution, and then they have to end up backpedaling because they went down a path that they did not actually, check the box. And so this is literally, these steps are designed for a reason, because they work, and the steps will work. And I promise you that the other thing that you need to be very mindful of when you're setting the stage is that multiplying words divide attention. And when you multiply too many insurance options, what that does is it divides interest. So you have to be able to listen to where they're telling you their needs are, what their goals are. You know, some people need just a foundation plan. Some people need a more comprehensive plan. Some people may already have coverage, and so you are coming in just to maybe supplement that what they already have, because you learned that back up in step one about the idea of breaking the ice. You already learned, you know, that they had done some care planning already. So again, we have a whole separate webinar, and not to get too deep into this, but setting the stage is really important because you want to manage people's expectations. And when you move, Tom, unless you have another point
no, I just, you know, and again, remember, everything we're showing you is really simple. And a lot of people use the $50 or $100 a month, you know, to, depending on what products you sell. And again, you're going to know your clients sometimes to know what kind of pocketbook or nest egg they're looking at. One of the biggest things we stress to agents is remembering that don't go by what you think. That's why we have a conversation instead of having a monologue, because remember, whether you have a $5 million nest egg or 500,000 or 50,000 or $25,000 nest egg, it's still your nest egg. That's one thing we've learned throughout our many years in this industry, is that you may think, wow, they don't have enough money for this. You might be surprised. People are, a lot of times, will really surprise you, where you'll be like, wow, I was thinking this person was, I know them. They don't have a huge nest egg. They don't have a big budget. They're kind of say they're insurance poor quite often. And then I brought this up, and I'm showing them, saying, you know, for your age at 65, I can get a really strong plan, $3,000 a month at $55, and I can even scale that down a little bit if we need to. We just want to get something in place, because it's amazing what will happen if we just get a couple days of home health care, if God forbid something happen. And you'll be surprised how often we hear stories of agents saying, boy, and they were like, well, I like that middle one better, because I think that's stronger protection. And I had a relative who really had some problems. So remember, don't have your own idea of what you think is going to work until you have a conversation, because it may go either way, of course. And you might be surprised where people are going to be like, I don't have a taste to spend $100 a month. I need 50. So anything you put in place does amazing things. And we can bore you with those stats as well. And on the health matters, I'm going to jump back just a second, Dennis, and I apologize, but I usually finish that slide on the home health, on the short-term care apps, and show you just how simple those are, to show you the far extreme, because they're night and day easier than long-term care. But remember, the home health care plans, the home health care only plans, those are literally one question or two questions, like, hey, are you needing help right now? Like I said, if we have those, I wanted to stress to you that those are home health care only plans that we could do as well, with just literally, are you getting help right now? Do you have any cognitive impairments, or, you know, are you in a facility? So super, super easy when it comes to home health care only. And those can be very robust plans as well. So when you get into our product training, we'll cover that more. But otherwise, I think we're good on that, Dennis, unless you wanted to add again.
Yeah, no, I think, Tom, it's really all about conversion, right? I mean, sometimes the starting point is that you might get them leaning in because maybe you're not as confident. And so the idea of selling that standalone home health care with the two questions, which is, you know, that they can get coverage, as Tom said, you give them maybe a little foundation plan that might be $15-20 a month, because it just, you know, that fits into their budget. And then you come back and say, and you know, you can layer back in the additional coverage. So the important part is that, you know, part of that stickiness of that relationship, as Tom indicated, is that you want to layer in additional products that allow them to know that you're a resource in more than one area. And when you get into implementation, you know, whether you're doing it with an e-app or whether you're doing it with a paper app, again, some of that may be that in advance of that call, you can go into most of these portals, the Willoughby portal, the Manhattan portal, the GTL portal, and you can basically save information. You may already have a lot of their information, name, address, obviously those are some basic information, social security number. And so you can streamline this where you can get through that process in under 10 minutes. I mean, it's really that easy. And of course, you know, if you already were old school and wanted to have something that was in the, you know, the paper version, you know, then you could have some of that pre-filled, and just as you were doing some of that pre-screening, you automatically really probably already checked the boxes and could make that even down to just a couple minutes. But implementation, one of the most important aspects is the cool down. And the cool down is after you've actually, converted and moved them to that successful conclusion, that logical conclusion, if you will, to whatever it is, whether it's that the low end foundation plan that Tom said was $55 a month, or whether it is the larger plan, or whether it's a standalone home healthcare plan, then you don't just rush out, or you don't just finish up that Zoom call. You take a few minutes and you give them kind of the what I call the cool down, where you want to put them comfortable on that level. You don't want them rethinking that decision and calling you back up afterwards and saying, "Oh, I changed my mind." So there's a whole process of just re-solidifying what it is on the benefits of ownership that they just basically took out. And then you want to let them know what the next steps are. Hey, we just got this plan. It's going to be that middle plan that you liked, that you said because of that experience that Tom just said. And I want you to know what's going to happen next is the company is just going to run a pharmacy check. Everything I've listed on this application, they'll basically just verify it with a pharmacy check. And usually what happens, unless they see something that's a medication that you're taking that they need clarification on, you can fully expect that within just a few days, I'm going to hear back. And that's how easy the process is. The home care ones are as close to jet issue as possible. And again, you let them know, though, you don't want to necessarily just get the deal and then you're trying to get on to your next interview. If you're doing face-to-face, you're trying to set up your next Zoom call. Those 5 steps all work in sync together. And it's something that I think if you will take the time, you'll surprise yourself. You will surprise yourself how easy the process is. Many people who used to sell long-term care and got out of long-term care and pivoted to Medicare or final expense, was because they just thought that the conversation was just going to be too difficult, that they were going to get in over their heads. And so all of this is what we discovered is just in summary. And, I want you to know that as we take you to the site that we have, this site was developed for all of our integrity partners and for all of their partner agents like yourself who are on this call. And it's a one-stop shop. It's everything. It's a living, breathing site that has everything that you're going to need with all the various, not only the product solutions, but also the conceptual and what we just walked you through today, which is how to take a consultative approach to bringing up this topic. So Tom, I'll let you talk a little bit about some of the other features that we have that are on the site.
You bet. And we'll finish up with that. And again, go to integritystgc.com. That's where you can find all this. And I jumped over to the sales. You saw the product area. We have all the different products that we have for the short-term care and the home health care. And you can get there a couple different ways. And we have a training, I think this afternoon's on one of the products. Manhattan Life, I believe, is the Omniflex product today. So you can jump on that and hear all about the product. Or you can come down here, see, here's some stats for you for extended care. And then when you go down to the sales and marketing materials, I mean, everything you need. We don't throw you out of that plane without the parachute, as we always say. So you can go in here, and I'm going to click on the full webinar schedule just to show you really quickly. And it'll take a second because we're on a webinar, of course. But here's our beautiful Wells Fargo, the Integrity Home Office building there in Dallas. And then down here, you can see all the different full trainings that we have. Even from fireside chats that Dennis has done to True Freedom products, everything you can think of that we've had on these webinars. So you have all the knowledge you'd ever need if you have time to go back and just listen to some of those. And like today, I said, go back and listen to one of those if you want to hear the intro about why this is so important. And then we have fast facts videos that get into some of the product benefits that are so important for people. We have the InstaPivot tool. That's that tool I showed you. You can figure out any plan in any state that's available for your clients. If you have a downline, you want to attract agents to turn in their heads to short-term care or extended care. And then, of course, the consumer use, we have a lot of info packs and information for you right on the site as well. And like Dennis said, here's the extra training down here. But we also have, and these are well worth it. I don't mean to undercut. I'm just trying to go quick. this is a living, breathing site where we're going to have little cheat sheets on there and showing you real quick bird's eye view of how much these plans cost for the different types of plans, and really simple things for you to help really be successful to go out and start that conversation. The easy button's the key. That's the thing I want you to know, is that this isn't as hard as you think. You're not stepping way out of your comfort zone. You're literally taking one extra step, and it's going to do wonders for not only your business and bottom line and persistency, but it's going to really help a lot of folks who desperately need it. So, Dennis, I'll jump back unless you had anything else you needed on that.
No, Tom, I think that's it. I mean, again, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. You know, you're the messenger, okay? And we just shared with you what the message is. And remember, at the end of the day, your clients, as Tom said, they'll surprise you about the budget parameters. You know, people, as I said at the very start, they don't always buy what they need, but they certainly almost always will buy what they want. And they'll find the resources for the things that they want. And it may surprise you, but you've got to be the one that takes that first step, which is to have that conversation. So, Tom, I'll let you close it out.
You bet. Thanks, Dan. And again, thank you guys for taking your time today, valuable time to jump on. And remember, the next step is up to you. Make sure you contact the marketer who got you on this call and find out and say, hey, I want to get, if you say I want to get set up for all those carriers for the extended care or the short-term care initiative, they should know what we're talking about. And if you're one of the marketers and you want extra help, that's one of the things we'd love to do for you, is to really give you the tools and make you comfortable to know that you can go out and help your clients and your agents below you. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you jumping on. Jump on another webinar, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
The next step is yours. Contact your marketer for more information and to start offering short-term care solutions to your clients. And be sure to sign up for our other short-term care hot topic webinars.